You are now watching Believe. Do you believe?
Welcome to On My Block, the Green Bay Packer podcast. I'm your host, Ahman Green, and along with my good friend and now feeling better teammate, Mike Wahle. Man, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. We were just talking off air. I had COVID. I didn't think I could get COVID, and AG, you just laughed at it, but I would have bet a large sum of money, and probably one of my children, that COVID was not going to touch this body. Like my son and I are like, dude, we got wolf's blood, man. Like, we cannot get hurt. Like, we're not invincible. We're not immortal, but like COVID's not going to hit us at all. And I woke up, I went to bed feeling great 2 weeks ago, and I freaking woke up the next morning and I felt like I got hit by Amtrak, man. I felt like it just came through and just the train just ran right over my ass. And the good thing about this COVID now is you get a new symptom every day. So it's not like you're just, it's not like you feel like a certain way, like one, for like 5 days in a row. I had 5 different symptoms 5 days in a row. It was amazing. What an amazing experience. How much fun is that?
I've been through it. It was last September for me, right as the school started and esports season started. I did an event. I think it was the event I did with Gilbert at one of his campgrounds as he does in southern Wisconsin, southwestern. And because I hosted and I was on the mic all day, and I think I had the mic in my face all day. So boom. And then the next day, that's what I felt like. Mack Truck, Derek Brooks just hitting me continuously timed over and over again. That's how I felt. But it was only 2 days. It was like, but I felt more like I had a high fever, like I've had the flu before when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it was the flu. And then I was saying with you, I was telling my wife, and it's not COVID. It's just the flu.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm a little sluggish. I'm going to just nap it out. Monday went by, Tuesday went by. And then on Tuesday, she tested me. It was positive. And I'm like, okay. But then Wednesday, it broke. And I felt normal again. I just didn't have my energy was on the low part, but the fever was completely gone. And so that's where I was
this thing's nonsense. Listen, I'm vaccinated. Like I honestly, the women in my family have got it multiple times, or at least have had the symptoms and everything. But my son and I hadn't had it. And I think my mom had it, but my dad had it. And so we were like, all the men in my family were just kind of puffing out our chests. And then not only did I get it, not only did I get it, but my son my dad got it, got the Paxlovid, whatever the medicine is. And then like a week later, my mom got it. And a week after that,
the jab.
Yeah, so he's got it again. So now he's got it twice in like a month. And we're just sitting there going like, this wolf's blood thing is for the birds, I guess. It was completely disingenuous. Unbelievable.
It's not real. It's like, so you're telling me it's going to take wolves down and werewolves down. That's basically what you're saying. I'm telling you, they're probably safe. And I'm telling you, I'm not quite as tough as I used to be. That's the sad reality. Gotcha.
But speaking of guys that are down, man, we're going into this damn training camp.
We got a whole roster. We got a third of the roster down right now.
Well, so we got some guys on PUP, but probably the most important guy as it pertains to Packer fans is Bakhtiari, still on PUP. And he was hurt back in 2020. He got 21 snaps last year at the end of that Lions game. And I don't know the details. I know that he had ACL surgery. I don't know the extent of the rest of the surgery, AG, but I can't there's no scenario that is good right now if the guy's still out.
True. And you got to remember that it was later in the season. It was December when he had that ACL, and he came back right into the playoffs. So it was basically a year later. But what I bring that up is because the fact that the pressure of knowing and how when you come back, you want to be that guy, So it's not just coming back into training camp. You're coming back getting into playoff form against the best in the game right now. So I think the pressure of that, along with, him being the best on the team and being the best in the league at that position, had all that to correlate why he's not still, he didn't play at that time. He took those 21 snaps. That was, I think, the Detroit game. And then he didn't play a couple weeks later in the playoff game. So it was just those plays there that kind of, to him, felt good, but obviously wasn't felt in 100%. And obviously whatever Doc on the team, Dr. McKenzie, whoever thought about how he played, how he felt. That conversation was more of a conversation. Let's bench him the next game, thinking that, we'll win against the 49ers, and then we'll get them back for the next game, I think, for the NFC Championship game after that. So that's kind of where I'm sitting now.
Do you think that's true, though? I mean,
look, the whole process of that.
But
not that it's true, just my thoughts.
Yeah. Well, I would say, but looking at it now, though, because one thing we know is that Doc McKenzie is going to err on the side of keeping the players safe, right? I mean, that's experience that you and I had with him.
Right.
So unlike a lot of other places in the league,
100%.
so with him being out this long, this had to be a decision that the big man had a huge say in. And I just wonder, in my mind now, this shows that there's no way he was coming back for the Super Bowl or the NFC Championship game. Because he's still out now. They say there might be some fluid in the knee. The problem with these ACLs is there's just other things that can happen. Whether it could be an infection, whether they had a meniscus tear, they had there's LCL, blah 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 blah. But there's all these other things that can go into it. And we think now, like back in the day, 20, 30 years ago, you tore your ACL depending on the position, and that was like a death sentence for a football player. But now it's I don't want to say it's run of the mill, but my daughter had one. I mean, my family's gone through it, and certainly they happen all the time. Adrian Peterson famously played like 6 or 8 months after he tore his, and so they're much more commonplace. So for this to be going on really a year and a half plus now of not seeing major time and not really understanding what the situation is. And they're pretty guarded about at least the information they're willing to disclose to the public, rightfully so. It's just,
of course,
start doing the game. It's like, okay, well, Jenkins is out, but he's probably your second best player. So Bakhtiari's doesn't look like he's going to be ready. Jenkins is still on PUP. He'll be ready at some point. We don't know when, but now you're missing your two top guys.
Right.
And what I would have said going into the season as a strength on this team is becoming a little bit more of a question mark / liability. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Because a lot of the guys, what we saw last year, rotating around because David being out there, they came in and they actually did, everything did the job. And we got guys that are not on the team now that went off to other teams for free agency. But for the players that are here and healthy, Cole Van Lannon, he could get some reps in there. And then Royce Newman continue to build his rep. Josh Myers, we already know he's the guy there. Yash Nyman, he could now step up and rotate between with Cole Van Lannon at each tackle side because Rasheed Walker, Caleb Jones being out as well for those undisclosed injuries. I think now those guys can maximize this time they're going to get and then be more ready for the regular season if and when Jenkins come back and David comes back. So I think those guys right there, they maximize this moment for them to get more reps and get that experience with this offense.
This sucks because Aaron Rodgers only has so many years left. But these are the kind of
well, you think about that, yes.
But these kind of situations, if I'm a guy like Sean Ryan, if I'm a guy like Zach Tom, a guy that I'm kind of looking forward to seeing just because of his athleticism. These are the opportunities with a well-coached offensive line. I know that Stenovich is going to OC, but he's still in the building. And obviously they're bringing, whoever the second commander was, I can't remember his name now. I think it's Butkus. Luke Butkus is now going to be the line coach.
Yep.
So, and he's been around the league, many years, and obviously was there last year and is part of that development plan. So you're going to have, JRJ is going to get better. Meyers is going to get better. It looks like Royce is going to be the right guard in the moment, and he's going to get better. And so now you have these two other positions, one for maybe a longer than we thought, but you have a guy like Zach Tom, and you have a guy like Sean Ryan, and Yash Nyman, of course, who played well last year when he had the opportunity. And a lot of people would argue that maybe he should have started that game in San Francisco and let the chips fall where they may. And Billy Turner could have played right tackle and not put Dennis Kelly in. Something that I know you and I discussed at length. But look, Zach Tom is going to be a player in this league, man. The guy's too athletic not to be. He's got a place where they're going to give him a chance to develop. And he's going to be he's going to have an opportunity. So I'm excited about that part of it. It's just like, dude, Aaron Rodgers only got 3 years left, man. We don't want to waste any more time here.
Yeah. You got to make sure you got to have that up front. The guys that protect him on game in and game out, healthy and the best at that position. So between center, guard, and tackle. But let me get into this. Our sponsors with Bet Online. Our partners at Bet Online continue to be the #1 source of all our betting needs and sports information. Find on the latest odds, news, and sports developments, including NBA Summer League, Major League Baseball, and the latest fighting news, big fights over the weekend as well, and even next season's early NFL futures, because we're right now, that's what we're talking about, preseason, and that's going on for all the NFL teams, all 32 around the United States. So head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. So just use the promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, to get the bonus and get into the action. So bet online, Mike, where the game starts. So to wrap
AG,
up,
did you know you
could
do esports there? Did you know you could bet on esports and bet online, AG?
No, I did not. I
you
knew
could bet esports.
I knew there were other websites.
Okay.
Right. I knew there were other websites. I didn't know Bet Online did it, but now that I know, I'm gonna check it out. I met other companies going to different events. Yeah, but I got to get into it where I know it, and I'll make sure bets on teams. So in terms of watching the seasons on that, but yeah, it definitely will pique my interest for sure.
Well, you got to. There is a realm that I am completely out of sorts with. So if you got esport, AG, if there's a situation where you need a second on an esport bet, I'm your guy, but you're gonna have to lead the charge there.
No problem. I could help you with that. I could do, because I know the teams, I know the ones that I know players, kind of like we know players with different in NFL, baseball, basketball, stuff like that. Definitely might help you with that. But looking more at this PUP, we got other guys on offense like Tunyon. Then we got defensive line, Dean Lowry, and a few other guys, but in total 13 players, 7 on offense, 6 on defense. It's just, for me, it's like, wow, that's a lot. And a lot of undisclosed injuries, maybe off-season stuff or previous from the finished season, so like small surgeries that not quite healed up. So as a coach coming in, I'm not worried, but just like, I wish I, would have been aware. Probably as a coach, you would have been aware of this, but obviously not being in the building, we don't. But for a coach, you definitely know this coming in, knowing what you got to work with coming training camp. Yeah,
and the good thing is if you start before the training starts, if you start on PUP, then you can come off whenever you want before the season starts.
Yep.
But this kind of goes into the bigger thing we're going to talk about is the schedule that you have for training camp, and I'm just looking at it right now, AG. So the Packers, as an example,
I got the calendar up as well. Yeah, I got the calendar.
The Packers are going to practice, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday off, Saturday on, Sunday off, Monday, Tuesday on, Wednesday off. There's 2 on, 1 off, 2 on, 1 off. And you get all the way down here, and it's like I thought I was missing some of the list, and.
No. I did the same thing. I looked. I said maybe Mike is missing a little bit, but I'm gonna go check. And I found it. I'm like, no, it's legit. Is what he put up is what is out there. It's like, it is definitely not our training camp for sure.
Well, the first 3 days it looks like there's one practice at 10:30 in the morning. So who knows if they ever do double days or walkthroughs? I know they don't do double days anymore, but maybe they do walkthroughs.
No, they don't do double days. Is gone.
Right. So here's the thing that. Here's the thing that I have a hard time. I just can't wrap around my head. I'm just not that smart. So I know guys like Sean McVay started not playing their starters in preseason, which I actually I get. We've talked about this before because you have when are you going to have that opportunity to compete? When are you going to have that opportunity to kind of compete? And what a lot of these guys are doing is they're practicing against each other. Like, for example, I think the Packers are playing the Saints 2 practices in a row, joint practice before they play each other in the preseason, either finale or the second game. Or it's the second game. So yeah,
it's the second game.
Yeah. So you have these opportunities to have this kind of live, kind of safe environment, live situation that you can dictate in practice now instead of having it in games. So I get that, but when you have all these guys down, and we didn't even talk about like Christian Watson's on PUP, right? Patrick Taylor's on PUP. So you have these other guys that are younger that aren't necessarily, they're fighting for positions on this team.
Yeah, Kalen Hill, the running backs.
It takes a certain kind of team, I think. I always thought it took a certain kind of veteran team to be able to do what Sean McVay did. And now you see because of the amount of joint practices that they hold, they're taking care of that. But I just don't understand. And I'm being sincere with this. Like, I really don't understand when guys are supposed to get better, because I would trade a morning practice, full pads or, shoulder pads and shorts, where I can go bang, work my craft, get better at what I'm supposed to do, and then go home. I would trade that 10 times out of 10 for having to go sit in meetings for 6 hours one day and not be able to practice. And then what they do now is like on the first day that they're off, on Friday, it's not like they don't go into the building. They meet. They just don't practice. And I just don't know where the NFLPA, like, where did they come up with this is a good idea? This is a joke, because you can't get better. And they're citing a lot of, like, I actually was just on a discussion on a phone call this morning with a guy in the league, AG, and he was talking about they've got these committees, and it's player safety, and they're cutting out these drills and that drills and those drills, and they're basing it on these statistics that mean nothing. There's no contextual awareness, and there's not a large enough sample size to even consider it like a viable resource. But they're doing all of this because they want to what? They want to get that 18th
protect
game.
the player.
So protect the player so they can get that 18th game. Right, exactly.
Correct.
So it's just we're kind of back in this thing where I really don't understand how the quality of the product on the field isn't suffering because they don't practice enough. I just don't know.
I see where you're going with this, and I agree, because when everything came into change, which was basically between now and the 2010 season, the question was like, when I start hearing about there's no more two-a-days, no more Oklahoma drill, no more, certain tackle drills too, that was along with the Oklahoma drill that we did. And I'm like, okay, they're taking, I see what they're doing. Like you said, they're trying to benefit the player, take away some of the physicalness in practice over the long haul of the training camp. I was like, I get that, but I believe in general that it should still be like the coaches now got to find a way to make that between the physicalness to come, be in training camp to get ready to where they could work those techniques like you mentioned. And McVay, and when you say having the way he's using his having veteran leadership, coming to practice, because we know as players, okay, this is the work I need, and then and this is what the bare minimum I'll say we can do to where I feel ready to play. We can ask ourselves that honestly and do that. I know you can, I know I can. And so when you have everybody in the room, offensively and defensively, like McVay has, where players will be truthfully and say, look, I could give me these many days live, I could take me these many days off if we're saying, we can't have this many contact days, blase, then that's going to work. But if you have players that don't have the experience, you have young players, like you said, like we have on the roster now that are out, and it's like they don't know because they're coming from college. They don't understand. They just don't know the experience and how it feels, what a real training camp goes through, or going through what that feels like, and then how that prepares you for NFL level football. I mean, for me, I remember coming out of Nebraska, it was a different animal. Going to Seattle, it was actually the reverse for me. It was like my first regular season practice in Seattle. I came off the field like, that's it. I said, this is practice, because of what we were going through with Coach Osborne. Between the two-a-days and the physicalness we had in practice in Lincoln, Nebraska, I knew I was just ready for something else in Seattle. Training camp gave me a picture of it. Training camp was the same over in Eastern Washington, banging around for those 3.5 weeks out there. I was like, okay, I'm ready. This is what I've been at the college level doing. Okay. But then when the regular season practice started, I was like, wait up. We were like saying, like, I got to work out harder in the weight room now, because since we didn't work out that hard on the practice field, it was like, okay, I see there's a disparity I got to adjust on my own. And that's what good players do. Players that want to get better, I felt it. And you knew that because I saw you. I remember days after practice, I'm watching you flipping tires, doing your sled, doing something because you felt you needed a little bit more. And that was that same type of mindset. So for these practices that they are getting spaced out, it's just those players now is 100% is off that all-season conditioning that we always talk about here on the show. That needs to be their focus, because obviously the NFL now has rules set in line for them to not be as physical in practice as we're talking about right now.
Yeah, I think for the way that we go about our business has changed. And I remember part of the fun part when I was working in Miami, part of the fun of it now was, okay, how do we were doing a paradigm shift because we're not going to be as physical in football's not going to be as physical anymore in the buildings. So how do we get better? Yeah. And it was like, okay, it actually helped us. Like it helped the way I think about things because I started going, all right, what can we break down? What simple components can we turn in that we can just rep and teach at different speeds and teach with different apparatus and not needing pads? What can we do so we can break this down and make these guys actually absolute technicians? It kind of forces you to go, when you go away from pads, it kind of forces you to really become a master technician and break things down because you can't just kind of violence your way through everything, right, in quotes. So there's a lot of good that comes with this, but, to your point, when you're just not physically on the field, whether it's, you have 3 practices, or, 10:30 a.m. practices and you're done, you have maybe some walkthroughs, but when you when you're not on the field for very long, you have to put so much time into this game to be really good. And we've talked about this before. Yeah. We don't think the quality of play at some positions is as high as it used to be. And I know everybody rolls their eyes at that, but this is the reason, right?
You literally
you can't be as good. There's a reason that like Willie Anderson and Charles Bentley and all these guys, there's a reason that these linemen go meet these old guys and learn how to play offensive line. It's because they're not learning it in the buildings. Like there's a reason people come to me to learn it, to work on their technique. It's because we used to have to work on technique more than they do now. And so they need to find these avenues because they're not getting it in training camp and during practice. It's not because of a lack of want to, it's because of lack of resources. And so, like you said, the thing that I always love about this part is that there is a really big opportunity for players to get better. Right? They just have to do it on their own. And if they're willing to do that, like you said, then they're going to really stand out over the course of time.
Yeah, because it'll come out in the gameplay. So what we have here. So what is it? Do you think players can be good? Oh, no, they already answered that question pretty much. So trying to see where we're at on here. Want to get into trench warfare or?
Yeah, man, let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, into trench warfare. So what? No, you got it.
So for me, AG, I just wanted to talk about, this training camp's coming up, and we just talked about this time. And so one of the things that is super important, especially we talked about Bakhtiari being out, is continuity within groups, right? So I don't know, you want to hit the receiver group first, but like what, you look at that list of players and you say like objectively, we have to have gotten worse because you just lost the best receiver in the game. And now, you know what I mean? And so now
that's being honest, right?
Yeah, we're not going to be as good in that room, but we did pick up a Sammy Watkins. Allen Lazard's got another year under his belt. Randall Cobb is what he is at this point. He's one of Aaron's best friends. He's a guy. He's a safety blanket. He's a leader in the room. He's a professional. So there's a lot of ancillary benefits to having him there that aren't necessarily going to show up as like 1,000-yard receiver. You drafted Christian Watson, who we had a first-round pick, so we're happy with. I think everyone's excited with that. You got Romeo Dobbs, you got Deshawn Winfrey, you got Malik Taylor, you got Amari Rodgers coming back, looking like he is now physically in better shape than he was when he came out last season, and hopefully is looking to bounce back from what was an unproductive year last year. And so you've got this group of receivers that I think if you look at on paper, you're going to go, I'm kind of excited about this because I think they have
got a nice room.
Yeah, you have a nice room. And it's just, how does that come together? Is Sammy Watkins the kind of leader that can kind of glue that group together? Is Randall Cobb going to be that guy? Is Allen Lazard willing to take that step? Is Amari Rodgers going to show up? And is he going to be the multifaceted player that we think he can be? Because we look at him and he could be, he returns punts. He could play in the slot. He could play out of the backfield. Christian Watson can take the coverage off the top of the coverage. Like we have some very, very interesting. Romeo Dobbs, I think he led the NCAA in long touchdowns last season.
Yeah, exactly.
So we've got some people here. I don't know what this looks to be, but it's actually pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I mean, for continuity's sake, is basically starts now with everybody now being around each other every day, every morning, every afternoon to hang out, talk, jab at each other, take some technique skills or technique off of one another. and how those conversations go, and not being afraid as a young player to ask questions. That is where we're going to find out who's going to be that. I'll say not to fill the shoes, but who's going to step in and be that number one guy and have the mentality like Devonte have, and just bring that same little leadership on the field and off the field as Devonte had. He didn't say a whole lot. It was all with his actions, and so now it's just filling that void. And obviously, it was a big void to fill. And once we found out about Devonte going to going to the Raiders to Las Vegas, was like, wow, we kind of knew it was coming because there was rumors out there. But now to the Packers room, now you forget all that. It's like, all right, who's going to show up? Who's going to compete? And that's the part I love about this is basically being a coach and walking in that room is like, all right, it's game time. Who's going to compete? I need 1, 2, 3 receivers who's going to be the number 3, those top 3 guys. Who is in this room? I love all.
Who do you think it is?
But now we got. I'll say right now. I mean, Alan Lazard. I could go with him easy because he, in terms of the way he came out and came ever since he got on the roster, and I could see maybe from one of the younger guys, a guy who had a little bit of game time last year is Juwan Winfrey. He played well when he got in there, made some mistakes, but no matter what, it was time in for him. That he could stock away. And I could say maybe a sleeper because I know Sammy Watkins is going to get his time because they're not going to bring a guy like him in and not get time. He's going to get time. But a guy that can then push that envelope, another young guy, is Romeo Dobbs. I could see him potentially, being a guy because he's done it at the college level. He led all levels, all divisions of college football at the wide doing certain things, catching deep balls, having receptions, things like that. Not ruling out whoever else might pop up, but just for me, it'll just be interesting to see how any of those guys would filter out in training camp, and they can do it. But I believe it.
I think Randall. Alan Lazard is the guy. And I think I'm probably biased because I like what he does in the running game. So I just think that makes him a tough guy. Like I think it makes
on top of that, right? Exactly.
Yeah, it makes it a competitor. But what is interesting about this group is, first of all, I don't know anything about Sammy Watkins. I've never heard a story where Sammy Watkins was lauded for, just being this like wild workout guy or like stays after. Like, I don't know if he is or not. We'll have to see. Like some guys carry that.
Yeah, we'll see.
Some guys carry that tag. He doesn't carry that tag, so we really will have to see. But we need that guy because you don't really have somebody in that room right now where you look at and go, okay, this is, Randall Cobb is a professional. Again, he doesn't carry that tag as far as just being a Devonte Adams, like master of your craft, master technician, staying late to watch film, doing all those things. Now, one thing that's great about this group is they have to go against Alexander every day, right? And they have to go against Stokes every day. Like, they have some talent in the secondary. And, you remember when we were playing in Green Bay, our offense was a lot better than our defense. And so it's like our defense, like if you don't want to go and get your head beat in, you better show up and fight. Like Nick Barnett, I'll never forget, man. Like Nick Barnett showed up and he was way undersized. And we were like, what is this kid doing playing linebacker? But he showed up and he was like, I'm ready for the fight. Figuratively and literally. He would try to fight you. But he was game for it. And he became a really good player because he was playing against really top dogs every single day. And he was all about competing. And those guys are going to have to look across the field every time they line up against some really good players in Green Bay's secondary. So I think that part of it's going to be it'll be beneficial on both sides, but especially with these younger receivers.
Exactly. So how about going into the continuity of the O-line for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, this is what we're talking about with Bakhtiari, man. This is hard because I'm just looking at this list right now. And you're trying to think about who is that veteran who's going to just pull everybody together. And you're like, well, it's Bakhtiari. I mean, John Runyon Jr. is around, third year. Josh Meyers second. Royce Newman second. Elgin Jenkins injured. Colvan, Zach Tom, Sean Ryan rookie. Josh Nyman third year. Yeah, there's just not like who's the guy that's going to step up and be like, this is the way we're going to do business. And you have an offensive line coach who's been in the building but has not run his own ship at the NFL level, right? And he's not an NFL guy,
that's
right?
A question mark.
So now you've got Adam moving on and probably making sure that this group has got their stuff together, but you don't really have a guy in that room not named Bakhtiari. And Bakhtiari, he's one of those guys that he does everything a little bit different, but he's a consummate pro. Yeah. He's a guy that all these guys would look to as a mentor if he's willing and able and available. But they don't have that guy right here. And so I'm super interested. And again, for the first time in a while, we're looking at across the field now going, oh, well, Kenny Clark's pretty good. Rashawn Gary's going to be a problem, right? Like Jaron Reed's not easy to move. Devonte Wyatt's going to be a good rookie. You start going like Dean Lowry's no slouch. Like they're gonna have to bring if they get to play in pads and if they we don't all these practices, if they get to compete, a lot of these young guys are going to be. I've seen Rashawn Gary on Instagram. He's ready. I promise you, he's ready for the season right now. You know what I mean? Preston Smith. They're going to be ready for the season. So it's going to be super interesting. I don't know who that guy's going to be. I think John Runyon Jr. could be a leader because he's got the pedigree and he's got the attitude. We know he's been working his ass off. But without Bakhtiari there, man, it's a different ball of worms there for sure.
It definitely is. I mean, because sometimes young players are just basically searching for themselves. And so they don't have the mind and the time to say, okay, I'm searching for myself. But then, they're looking at me, to lead or say something. And it's like, then and that conversation is not going to happen because it's just the experience is not there. So going into the work in defensive rookies here, which we have a few on the roster here. We got, I know Devonte Wyatt, as you just mentioned, a guy from Georgia coming out of a good team there, good coaching, and know that coming out of the SEC, ACC, one of the best competitive
SEC, Georgia.
College conferences. SEC, best competitive conferences down there. So having him and a few other guys here on defense.
We got Kwe Walker and Devonte Wyatt. The first two guys are from Georgia, right? And they're both going to see the field. And I think when you look at our defense, I think if you said, are we better or worse every different levels of defense than last year? I think defensive line wise, it's probably a toss up because you are losing he was unhealthy last year, but you're losing Zadarius and he was a force of nature, right? So we got to say, is
Devonte Wyatt,
right? Is he gonna? They didn't really bring anybody in. What we thought they were going to do is bring in somebody to replace a guy like him on the edge, but they didn't. So they brought in Devonte Wyatt. They brought in a couple of younger guys, but I'm not expecting them to replace Zadarius Smith. But they did bring in Devonte Wyatt, who can add to the pass rush in the middle. We play 3-down linemen in our traditional in our first, second down defense. So he's a guy that can show up and start to make some things happen. He's a freak athlete. Then you look at the linebacker crew, and we got Kwe Walker coming in. And we love Chris Barnes, but they brought this guy in. So we have to say net, they think that they've improved because they have an all-pro in Devondre Campbell. They have Chris Barnes, who's a known commodity, who's a leader on this team. And now they brought a guy who can really kind of shape-shift your defense as far as going between base, nickel, and maybe even not having to run dime anymore because you can leave him on the field. So those areas of the field should be a little bit better. It's just a question of, especially with Kwe Walker, how we've talked about this before, like how's that going to look? You've got a lot of guys in the secondary. You're going down with Stokes, Amos, Savage, Rasul Douglas, Jair Alexander. Like all of these guys can justify being in the game in a dime package. So how do we? Yeah. Do you want them all on the field? How do we make that work?
You make it work by basically when they show up in practice and they know what they're doing, they execute what has been told. If it's a cover 3 coverage, if it's a blitz. And they have I say for me, because I'm looking at this as I'm the defensive line coach or the linebacker, linebacker coach. I'm looking for technique being played. And then when the defensive huddle is there, they're in the huddle, paying attention to the play call, and then they execute their position and what they're supposed to do. Their responsibilities, if it's cover 3, if it's a blitz or anything like that. And then once I see that continually over and over again, then those are the guys I'm going to be like, okay, I got confidence in this player. When the coaches come together, have their defensive meetings of who we're going to put in these preseason games just to see how they're looking. I'm going to put flags or an X or a flag behind the name or X on that name saying, hey, these players look like this during practice. They execute, they know the technique, they know the responsibilities of all our coverages and the packages that we run. boom, let's try him out. Now let's see him in live fire and see what happens. So that's, as a coach, looking at that from the kind of, it wasn't a question you asked, but just to have it out there, that's what I'm going to look at, for those players getting on the field as a defensive rookie, because this defense right now is still one of the best defenses in the league, in my opinion, and still want to stay on top of there.
They didn't finish the season very well last year. We talked about that last time we were on.
Yeah.
They had some slip ups, and so they did address some of this stuff. But Z Smith not being there, I know he didn't play a lot last year, but he was a force when he was in the game. They do have, if you look at their secondary, we really have 5 guys that I think everybody's excited about, and then everything else is speculation. So looking at from again going back to kind of where does Kwe Walker fit into this thing? I look at it and go, okay, well, that's your nickel package right there. And if you want to move forward, like one of those guys is probably going to get hurt. It happens every year. So you're going to probably have somebody like Rasul Douglas show up and go, oh man, I didn't know he was going to be like that. But all of a sudden he's going to be a stalwart in the defense this year, most likely. I know that Savage wants to play slot nickel or slot corner, but it looks like they're going to keep him in the back on the back end. But there's maybe some combinations where you fit a 6 guy in there and you go to a dime. But listen, this defense needs to take that next step. And how do they do it? I think that number one, they do it with Rashawn Gary being a game plan guy this year. Kenny Clark continued to playing better. Like those two are going to have the biggest impact on the field. Devondre Campbell following up an excellent year with another excellent year. I think he's been doing it for a long time. Nobody just noticed because it was on bad teams. But he, to his point, he said, "Hey, listen, just put me in one spot and I can shine." So they're going to continue to do that, and he's going to continue to have good years for the Green Bay Packers. But those guys are the most important to me. But you look at these little pieces, Devondre, Wyatt. You look at Kwe Walker, and then you look at how these 5 kind of what we'll call our star caliber secondary fit into the puzzle and make everything work. Like it could be exciting, man. We could be a top 5 defense. We really could, and we don't say that about the Green Bay Packers very often.
Yeah, I mean, because like I said, very excited about the young rookies they got from Georgia, like we talked about, and just the veterans in the room. Those 2 linebackers, Barnes and Devondre. They have that leadership that I believe it could bring along those guys at the positions that they have for rookies, and then obviously the defense comes together from that standpoint because the back end is still great athletes in terms of all the players there. Alexander Stokes being the young guys that are really doing it, but bringing that all together it'd be something fun to watch here. So. Want to head on to get off my line, Mike. It's a lot of foolishness going on. And this first one here, I agree with you. It is a headache. Being a coach and a teacher, it's like, no, I don't need no more lists. I got enough.
I'm so tired.
Go ahead.
So we interact, like you're better than I am at it, but like you interact on social media and this and that, and
right
nowadays our sponsors and the guy, everybody comes out with these lists, and it's like they put together these lists and then people just debate them. It's like it is literally the most useless thing, and ESPN does it, and Johnny down the street does it, and the high school coach here in San Diego does it. And everyone's got a list. And I got to tell you, I could care. And somehow I get tagged on all these damn lists. And I don't care about these lists at all.
Right.
And then I feel, and you almost feel like, God, should I react? No. Because like you pick a position, like we've talked about it before, the difference in talent between like the elite, the top guys, like the 2 or 3 tackles in the league and everybody else. The 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the league and everybody else. The 2 or 3, the Derrick Henry, the Jonathan Taylor, the CMC if he's healthy, the Alvin Kamara, and healthy. Everybody else. Like the drop off is real, and it's more real at some positions than others, right? But I mean, it's just like people make an entire career out of making these lists. So I'm obviously like I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm obviously wrong here because everybody loves them. But I'm like every single day, I feel like there's 4 more lists that I'm supposed to react to. And I'm just like, dude, this is just and sometimes the guys that are making up the list, I'm like, am I supposed to know or respect who this guy is enough to give a damn that it's his list? Like, it would be like the equivalent of AG if you were like, Ahman Green's favorite ice cream flavors. Here's my list, like definitive list. I don't give a shit, man. I didn't know you were an ice cream expert. You know what I mean? Like maybe you are, but that's just not how I see you. So I don't know.
Right. But that, I mean, it's like you said, it's all born off of social media, and it's just that it's people reaching out and keeping staying relevant on their social media account, posting something every day, and it's like, wow. Because I remember I've done some shows, and that was a segment on a show. We had 15 minutes dedicated to going through food lists from around the world, so
listen, we do, like, we're all guilty of it, right? Like, we're guilty of it because you have to talk about something. But this is why you and I,
and that's part of it too. Radio. You got to talk about something.
This is why you and I can't do real radio, because in my mind, I'm like, man, real radio, like, it sounds like a fun gig. And then I'll be driving in the car at like 6 a.m. I'll be listening to like Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max. And I love Keyshawn, man. I think Keyshawn's the best. But then I'll be like driving around at like 8 a.m. and I'll be like, dude, am I hearing the same thing? Because they got to recycle everything every hour. So they got to take about the same thing 3 times a day. And I'm like, dude, no wonder you have so many lists. Like, now I get it, right? But God, man, it's just a lot, bro. It's a lot. Get off my lawn.
It's a lot. Yeah, get off my lawn with that. And this same one coming up for me is the National Day. Like, I put on the list here. Well, they had a fun one. National Tight Ends Day was last year. I was watching some stuff on NFL Network. National Salad Day. Now, I'm not saying these are days. They might be days. National Smoothie Day. Like, come on. Like, my question, I'm like, who is the person or people that actually makes this a national day? Because I'm thinking national days has to come from the government and then gets thrown on the American calendar. But when I'm hearing National Bestie Day, National Video Game Day, which I don't mind, but it's just interesting hearing, like, who gives the power? Just like with this list. It's like,
here's the deal, AG. And you remember when you were a kid, 7-Eleven on 7-Eleven is National Slushy Day. Slurpee Day.
Slushy Day. Slurpee.
So you get a free Slurpee. You get a free small Slurpee at 7-Eleven on 7-Eleven. Okay? So July 11th, you get a free. Now, what I'm telling you is that's not a national holiday. But that's about as close. When I was a kid, that's about as close to a national holiday as I was willing to get.
True.
Because they give away something for free. So if you're going to tell me it's National Smoothie Day, I want to walk into Smoothie King and get a free smoothie. If it's National Salad Day,
I want to go anywhere.
Yes,
exactly.
That's the only way it could be national anything. If it's just like I got to observe, if it's another National Observation Day where I have to observe something, and we all have to sit here and be depressed and talk about. I don't want to do that anymore. I only want happy days where I get free stuff.
Exactly. Happy days or nothing. Because like I gotta commit to something. Like, hold up, time out. What was this? A commit? I'm like, this is just a date on a calendar out there on the internet that I don't even know exists. My wife's telling me, or my daughters are saying, "Hey, Dad, you got to do this because this is National Bestie Day. You got to come hang out with." I'm like, huh? Since when?
If it's extra work, listen. If it's extra work for you, it's not a real day. You know what I mean?
It's not. Or money out our pocket, or money out our pocket is not a real holiday. You got to put, make it to where we don't have to spend money. And so this next one, this is now. Tell me about.
All right, so I don't even know. Okay,
he's one of the smartest men in the world, but he's
the richest man in the world. Elon Musk is everybody's hero, and like his exploits are becoming more and more legendary because he has like 13 kids, and he's had.
Oh my God! Hold up, time out. I didn't know that.
He's got he's like trying to repopulate. Like the mission to Mars is just for his children. Like the guy's an absolute. He's a horse they put out to stud, man. The guy's amazing. So he's like the world's version of Anthony Cromartie or whatever his name is, dude. Like, remember Cromartie back in the day?
Yeah, I remember. Unfortunately.
So anyways, so Musk, he was all over the Johnny Depp case because he had like a 3-way with Amber Heard, like some other girl, and like. I'm going, Elon Musk did all this stuff because he's kind of like an awkward dude and everything. But you're like, I don't know, whatever.
Right.
He's like, cool, I get it.
I would not expect him. That would be the last person I would expect to be in a menage. Okay.
So then, like the front page of the paper today, like Wall Street Journal paper, was like Elon Musk was having an affair with Sergey Brin, who's like one of the co-founders co-CEOs of Microsoft. Like, he was sleeping with his wife. He was having an affair with his wife. Knocked him. It's like, dude, the guy's running 3 companies. He had 2 kids out of wedlock with like the CEO of Neuralink. Like, he knocked her up twice, or once with 2 kids, something like that. Like, the guy doesn't sleep, man. Like, he's planning the mission to Mars.
Rest.
He's boring tunnels underneath Los Angeles. He's got Tesla. He's creating gigafactories in China, and he's knocking up. He's sleeping with everybody's wife. I mean, the guy. The Neuralink thing must be what the key to all of it is. He must have a chip in his brain. He doesn't have to sleep.
Because the only thing I was really aware of was Tesla, and I knew of some investments. Maybe.
No, man,
mission
this
to
guy,
Mars. I knew
this guy is amazing. SpaceX.
And I thought I was busy.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, I knew about SpaceX and Tesla.
If you think you're doing anything, just read his business. And read his day, his calendar, and it doesn't even include like, go get with so-and-so's wife at 9 p.m. or whatever.
Right.
Between him and Vince McMahon, I mean, it's quite a week for quite a week for CEOs. For famous CEOs, man. Like Vince, man, you gotta love Vince. Yes. Vince McMahon, you gotta go. Yeah, okay. Like, he's got to step down. Well, yeah, of course, it's Vince McMahon. Like, what did you think was that going on? Like, I watched this thing.
That wouldn't surprise me at all.
No, not at all. But I saw this thing on. I don't know, dude. I was sick, right? So you're binge watching everything, and like on A&E, they had this thing on with Randy Macho Man Savage. They did this like whole thing, like this whole hour show, and I forgot his real name now and everything. But Macho Man's everybody's favorite, right? But then you realize that you look back and like the way he treated Miss Elizabeth, who was his like wife in real life, and like came out and did the whole thing, like the way that he treated her. You look back because it was the '80s and times were different, but also it was like a character, and you just
a lot different.
And dude, like
what's real, what's not, right?
Yeah, but like now you're like, man, there's just an incredible amount of stuff where if you have made it from then to now and not gotten fired. I'm like Vince McMahon. I'm kind of like, you know what, dude? You made it a lot farther than you probably should have, just given what the climate was then and what it is now and what is absolutely not okay now, what was maybe passable then. Like we are in a different place right now, man. And these 2 guys in particular were just busy. They had busy weeks. Just unbelievable. I don't want to say like I'm impressed. Like I want to emulate them. I'm just impressed with like the amount of stuff people can get done in a day.
All right, 100%. Yeah, that when I saw that, I'm reading this line that you put in to run a show here. I'm like, what is he up to? I'm like, I thought it was just the cars and going to Mars, and Mars. That's all I thought. I didn't, because it takes energy, like you said, sleep, and just time that people. That's why there's so many time traveling movies out there, because that's one expense that we can't get back at all. We can't do nothing with time. Time.
I'm telling you,
keeps rolling forward, and he has, like you say, he has the brain thing. So yeah, you might have a chip in that thing in his brain that's making him do multitask. He's multitasking, basically.
Oh, he's definitely multitasking. Right.
Now, so
in different households.
He's all right, now let's go to the next line here. Last line for Get Off My Lawn, Mike. What's this here going on?
So Deshawn Watson, like he's a top 5 quarterback talent in the league, right? And my whole thing is, I don't know. This is another Roger Goodell. Like, I don't know what they're doing, but they should come out and say something definitively, like now. Like, let's not drag this out anymore. You know what I mean? Like, this is not. We don't need this. This has been, regardless of what you think about Deshaun Watson or the women involved in the case, this is an absolute embarrassment for the National Football League on every level, right? Like,
100%.
The guy needs to be suspended for a year, 2 years. You pick the date. Just get him out of the building, get him away from the media, get him out of the conversation. Let the Browns, like, you have professionals on that team that are out there trying to do a job, right? This guy is not going to play this year because he is a black eye, an embarrassment on the Cleveland Browns, on the city of Cleveland, on the National Football League, just for being involved in what he's involved in, regardless of you think he's guilty, innocent, just for being involved. Hey, listen, man, you got to go, and you got to go for a while. Let the professionals who work their entire lives to be part of the National Football League be competitive players and make a difference and a mark for their families. Let them go deal with this season without having to sift through this crap for another 2, 3, 4 weeks because he's not. Everyone knows he's not playing, man. This is stupid.
Yeah, it's just interesting where the conversation, like you said, why the conversation is still going. I agree, and these are just decision made, and then boom. So the guys that are actually there in the building to coach and play football, and do their job for Cleveland Brown City in terms of that organization, they could go do it without this big bump in the road of a distraction. Like you said, great quarterback, but done some things that it is what it is. But yeah, let's move on. Let's turn the page as we just did here to wrap up this show here. So thank you for tuning in. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Ahman Green 30, all one word. And I stream as well. I do another one on Wednesdays. That's the Gamers Lounge where I talk about a little video game. So I'm going to check up Bet Online, our sponsor.
You got
see what's on the slate of overs and unders in the esports world. So I'm excited about that. I knew of other companies that do it, but know that Bet Online does it. Is great to hear. So, Mike, let everybody know where they can find you as well.
Yeah, Mike Wall 68 on Twitter, Process to Perform on Instagram. AG, always a pleasure, man. I'm glad we're back. Excited to see this, this monster schedule that we have next couple days here. I think we got a whole 3 practices in the next 7 days, so we'll have a lot to talk about.
So we got stuff to talk about.
Well, I was going to say hopefully they're wearing helmets because they're probably not wearing pads, but we can speculate, man. It's what we're going to do here for a while.
Right. I just saw a preview. I got my other monitor. I have NFL Network on, and I saw helmets on. So I saw a helmet. I saw a flash of a helmet. So there we go. So yeah, we'll be back next week with more information and stuff to talk about, like we just said. So thanks for tuning in, and go to all the podcasts. I say ecosystem places: Spotify, iHeart, Buzzsprout, Apple Podcasts. We are all on those places. And you can listen to our past episodes as well. Give us the feedback. We always love to hear it to get better. So thank you, and see you next week.